So if you're based in Saskatchewan and you're wanting to set up a business as a corporation and you're not sure how to navigate that or do it properly, feel free to reach out to myself, as I do that regularly. I do help people incorporate in Saskatchewan, and I'd be happy to help. There's a link in the video description below to book in a free initial consultation with me. Now in this video, I'm going to talk about the maintenance of a Saskatchewan corporation. What you have to do to keep that corporation in good standing and keep it active. You're probably only here because you already have a corporation or you're familiar with what a corporation is. But just to briefly explain, a corporation is a legal entity for a business. That word corp, in English, corpse, is a body. Corporal means pertaining to the body. In many Western European languages, that word corp or root word corp means body. So to incorporate means to embody. It's creating a separate legal body from the owners of the business. The owners of the business just become shareholders in the corporation. So with this corporation being a separate legal entity, it has its own tax return, it has its own bank accounts, its own sales tax accounts. It can be on leases, it can own assets, it can have debt and liabilities. So in a lot of ways, it's like a separate person, not quite the same, but in a lot of legal ways, it is a separate legal entity from a human entity. Now, in terms of the maintenance of a corporation, I do have another video on renewals for corporations, and that's one of the most important things for maintaining a corporation. So you have to file your annual renewals with the Corporate Registry of Saskatchewan, the ISC, which is the Information Services Corporation. And now with these renewals, these are completely separate from your annual tax filings and completely separate from PST filings and GST filings. These annual renewals are just with the ISC, and they're just to keep your corporation active with the ISC. And as of today, the price to do an annual renewal is $60. You can do it yourself. You should get a notification from the ISC with a code to actually log in and do that properly. And then it doesn't take long. It's basically just updating any of the main information that has changed within the corporation. And that keeps your corporation active and in good standing with the ISC. Now, it's really important to file your annual renewal, because if you do it late, there's a $50 penalty. And then if you don't file the annual renewal or you're very late with it, the ISC will deactivate your corporation, which is called being struck off. So a corporation status can sometimes show as struck off. That means it's been deactivated, typically because the annual renewal was not filed. So if you're a little bit late, within 30 days, typically it's just a $50 penalty you have to pay. Whereas if you're a lot later, typically after 60 days, then you will get struck off, and then you have to restore your corporation is what it's called. And that's $255. So it's really important to do this on time. What I tell everyone is just put a reminder in your phone, just in case you don't see the notification from the ISC. Do it on time, because you don't have to pay that $50 late penalty, or especially that $255 restoral fee. Now, the annual renewal is very important, but on top of that, you want to make sure you're staying on top of filing your PST, filing your GST, filing your corporate income taxes, workers' compensation and payroll if you have those, keeping your insurance policy active and things like that. And another important step is to have your shareholders meeting. And this is probably a lot more important and necessary for bigger corporations that have multiple shareholders. But if you are just an individual, you've created a corporation and you're basically just kind of self-employing yourself through that corporation, you're the only shareholder, the only officer, the only director, then having that shareholders meeting is, gonna look a little bit different than a bigger company with tens or hundreds or thousands of shareholders. So in that case where it's just you, or maybe you and one or two other people, if you want, you can just file what's called a resolution in lieu of shareholders meeting, which is basically just all the shareholders, signing off on a document going over the annual details of the corporation without having like a super formal meeting. And if you're wanting help with this type of maintenance, most law firms, especially law firms that do have lawyers or specialize in business law or corporate law, can just set you up on like an annual rate to file your annual renewal for you and file that resolution in lieu of shareholders meeting for you. Now, in terms of other updates that I mentioned a little bit already, like if you're changing the location of the corporation, if you're changing the officers, the directors, things like that, you're supposed to make those changes within 15 days. And to make those changes, you can just log into the ISC account, look up the entity, and then it'll show you kind of like the back-end dashboard where you can make those changes, and you'll just need your access code in order to do that. If you don't have an access code, you can click on the access code link, and then it will prompt you to apply for one. And then once you get that access code, then you can make those changes. And most of those changes are free. If you're just changing officers, directors, locations, things like that, those are free. Whereas if you're changing the number of shares, then you have to do that differently and file an amendment, and there is a fee for doing that. So hopefully this video was useful. Again, if you want any assistance navigating corporations, determining if you should create one or not, or just making sure you're maintaining it properly, feel free to reach out. And if you found this video useful, please click like, and feel free to check out my YouTube channel and subscribe. I currently have about 290 videos that cover business management and business startup topics, and many of them are focused on Saskatchewan-based content.